friends. This is David Vos. Today is September the 16th. It's 2015, and it's wonderful to see everybody today. Well, today I wanted to make a video about some things that I think is very important. I mean, we're living in this world, and there's so much confusion. I think all of us go through the world trying to understand. Isn't that really kind of odd? That we live in a world that we really don't understand. You know, it's like that movie, The Matrix, right? Many of you probably thought about this, and you've seen some other videos that were made about that, but it seems like everything is a big deception. Why would that be? It's like, you know, Dungeons and Dragons, and we're going through this maze, and we got to have our cloak of silence or our sword of truth or whatever to get through. It's this spiritual battle, and everything we do is by, you know, deception, and we have to overcome everything. Everything we come up against is some big battle we've got to overcome. And it makes you really wonder about this world that we're living in, because it doesn't seem like this is the world from our Father in heaven. And yet this world is so beautiful, and it's very difficult to understand because the flowers, and we all know, we're taught from the time we're little, we look around and we see all this. This is the creation of our Father in heaven, right? That's what we're told. This is so beautiful, so wonderful. Why then is it so difficult to live in this world? What is going on? Well, really, friends, there's two worlds here. Remember how we've been talking about the kingdom of our Father in heaven, how we're waiting for it. But what is the kingdom of our Father? Is it going to be a physical government with presidents and kings and thrones? Remember that our Father in heaven never offered a king on a physical throne or a physical temple or any kind of physical earthly kingdoms. All the earthly physical kingdoms that was ever offered to mankind have been from the carnal world. There's two different worlds, and we're waiting for the kingdom of our Father in heaven. And that world is spiritual. But that is what confuses people, because the earth is physical. Well, remember, the first chapter of Genesis, our Father in heaven, Elohim, created the heavens and the earth. So he created the earth as well. He made fruits, right? Fruits to eat. He made Adam and Eve. He made the rocks, the trees, the water, everything physical. Our Father in heaven made everything. So what did the devil make? Right? What's his kingdom? We talked about that a little bit, and that's the carnal, unnatural inventions of man, or any kind of thing that's not from our Father in heaven. Right? Well, what did the devil do? What did Jehovah do in the second creation account, in chapter 2 of Genesis? It says he yasar. He made things into form. Right? He didn't say he created it. Our Father in heaven created everything, but he just took it and he formed it. He manipulated it and made some sort of unnatural environment with it. See, Father had already made the trees and the rocks and the rivers, but what did Jehovah do? He took it and he made this little garden, this kind of weird, fake, little unnatural environment. And then he made Adam, and he made him into this form. Right? Form is I mean, there's one kind of form that our Father in heaven made, and that's the natural order of things. But here, it's sort of a manipulating of this form. You can take and you can make a garden, but it's really kind of unnatural. You place plants in certain places. You put trees in certain places. You go and you gather certain kinds of animals, and you make this type of environment. But you know that in the long run, something like that's not going to work. It takes a lot of upkeep. It takes a lot of work to keep that environment going. It's not a natural environment, right? Because there isn't any way. Well, we've talked about this like with our human body. If we say, okay, we've determined that we need to breathe 27 times per minute or something. So we start counting, and we get it down, and we're trying to regulate this perfectly because we've discovered that we know everything, and we know how the body should breathe. We know how much blood pressure there should be, and we know the body. We found out the body needs calcium, so we're taking calcium pills, and we found out the body needs phosphorus and vitamin A and D, and so we're taking each one of these. Guess what? It's too complicated for your mind to control it all. So even though you're taking calcium, you're not getting phosphorus and magnesium and zinc and all these things that come together to make a food to regulate all the things in your body that you wouldn't even begin to understand, because our Father is so magnificent, so great. It's beyond our imagination, this world that he made, and it works in harmony, right? It's perfect, beautiful harmony, and it takes care of itself. We don't take care of it, it takes care of itself. So you try to make an unnatural environment, you think you've got it all sewed up, you think you know exactly what you want and what you need there, but it's unnatural. It's an environment or an ecology that cannot be sustained forever. See, you can't, if you make a garden, it may be beautiful to you, but you cannot sustain it forever. It's not a natural environment. You let it go, and boom, it'll go back to the natural environment. So that's what this world is. It's kind of this garden that we live in, right? Later on, it takes on the name of Babylon, right? There's bricks stacked high on each other, and they go try to get to heaven to become like our Father in heaven. They want to be like the divine being. They want to create everything. But eventually that wall falls down. That big Babylon falls down. The confusion. Remember where he came down and he saw what they were doing and he confused their language? Most of us think that he confused just the language. Like maybe they spoke Hebrew, right? Some people think. So now we got Greek and Roman and Spanish, Latin, Chinese, all these languages, so he confused our language. But I think it's far more than that, friends. I think he confused everything that we think and everything that we do. He made sort of an addition to the garden. Right? Now we got to keep up this garden. We got to plant seeds, and we're hoeing the earth, and we're going to make this beautified over here, and oh, this needs water, right? Instead of the river watering it naturally in the rain, we got to go over there and water it. We got to take care of it. Well, now we got buildings to build, right? And it's just never-ending thing because they decay and they fall down. We got to put more buildings up. And guess what? We got to learn about the stars and how much blood pressure we got and how much times to breathe. And we got all this knowledge, right? Science. We found out it's so many millions and zillions of miles to the star. Now, you got to send your kids to school, and they sit in the classroom, and they learn. All right, we're learning. We're learning about stars. I'm going to be a scientist. I'm going to be an astronaut, right? This is wonderful. This is the kingdom we live in. This constant desire to become like the divine being. When in reality, we're already like the divine being. We were made in his image. It's all done subconsciously. We know everything subconsciously. Anything we need to know, we know it immediately. Through the Holy Spirit, he teaches us all things. But instead, we send our kids to school, and they sit in a classroom, and they learn, and they learn, and they learn, right? Maybe they learn computers. They know all about Windows 7. Then Windows 8 comes along, and they don't know nothing, right? It was just trash. It's just insanity. All right? And so they learn, they got to keep up with it. So they learn Windows 8. And they get everything down, and they know how to run it, and they know how to work on it. They know all this programming. And then Windows 10 comes along, and boom, they don't know nothing now. They got to learn it all over again. See, maybe they learned everything there was about cars. And boy, they could just open the hood, and just turn it over, and oh, they know what's wrong with it. They were so good. They knew everything about engines. All right, and then 10 years goes by, and then they put computers and stuff on the engines, and now you don't know how to work on cars. Everything you knew was trash. You don't know how. You have no idea why it's not turning over, because it could be any number of sensors that's on that engine. See, they designed it that way in the first place because they don't want you to be able to work on cars. They want you to have to take it to the shop and spend a lot of money. And these parts that they put on the car, they'll go out exactly at that point where the warranty quits. So here's the thing. Babylon isn't just confusion of a language, it's confusion of our minds. It's science, it's philosophy, and it's even religion. That's right, a lot of people know this. Babylon is religion. See, but it's not just religion, it's everything. It's science, history. They've confused our history too. And they want you to keep up with all this stuff and be thinking about the past and all the wars and imagining what's going to be the future and inventing new stuff. And you don't even have time to sit on a branch, overlooking a beautiful waterway and fish, or go to the top of a mountain and look over this whole valley and just rest in peace, have a glass of wine. You don't have time to do anything anymore because you're too busy trying to learn everything that they're telling you you have to learn, or else you're never going to make it in this world if you don't keep learning and keep learning. All this Babylon, all this confusion. So what I want to talk about in this video is what I've divided into 4 parts, 4 things. We're going to call these 4 things the 4 parts of Babylon. And you can also look at this as the 4 laws of the matrix. And that means that these are things that you've got to understand are completely confused. It's like a maze or a matrix that you can't figure out. For most people, they're living in this world and they don't realize that the world they're looking at is not the world of our Father. It's not the world we're supposed to be in. And they don't know why they're sad or depressed or in pain or even dying. And the reason is because you're living in this matrix. And it's very difficult to notice that what you're looking at is not the true world. You're only looking at this fake environment, not the real world. Our Father in heaven made the real world, friends. And Satan has made this world. He is the divine or the deity of this world. But he's not the deity or the divine being. He's fake. He says, I am. There's none else. Because through his own ego, he only sees himself. It's through pride that he sees that he is the only one. He's jealous. He's jealous of anyone else. And he wants you to worship him and only him. That's this physical, carnal world. The lust and the fears and the pride, and envy, hate, and all these things that make us carnal come from the ego, the lower carnal parts of the universe that he arranged into this environment that's fake. So the first one of these things, we're gonna break this up into 4 things. We're gonna break it up into the mind, the heart, the body, and possessions, things that are in this world. So let's start with the mind. This is the thing that we have to understand about the mind. Now, the mind then is stuff that we believe. We've already talked about this just a little bit, but what do you do with the mind? You gain knowledge. Well, in our world, you can have knowledge that is just some sort of inner knowledge, spiritual knowledge, and then you can have carnal knowledge, right? So you can know all about computers, that's knowledge, but it's not real, it's not important, it's fleeting. They come out with Windows 10 and boom, you don't know nothing about computers. There's carnal knowledge like 1 and 1 is 2, or it's 37 light years to the first star, right? It's 25,000 miles around the Earth. It's so many feet deep. This lake that we're looking at is just, 475. This is just carnal information, not important. When it becomes important, it becomes a wall around your spiritual understanding. And then you're only focused on stuff that don't matter. You're focusing on this. I've got to know how deep this lake is. I know how deep the lake is, therefore I am, smart. Therefore I'm going to succeed. I know how tall these trees are. I'm an environmental, technician or something, and I've learned about all the different kinds of funguses that grow on the trees, and I know how to keep the environment running smoothly. We've got to cut this whole group of trees out over here because they're infected with some virus, and we're going to plant another group of trees in this area that will be better suited to the environment. Well, guess what? The natural environment will do that for you, and will do it better than you can do it, because it's natural. It's from our Father in heaven. You see, those trees will die by themselves. They'll become food for the woodpeckers and the worms and the bugs and the environment that our Father in heaven has made. They were designed to burn when it gets summertime and there's a drought. Some trees cannot repopulate until there's been a fire first. For instance, pine trees have to have a fire to heat up the pine cone so the seeds can be released. So you see, there's a lot of things that you just don't know in all your wisdom. You think you're going to run in there, you've learned this technology from the government, and you've gone to school, and you think you got to cut all these trees down and replant, because this is what's needed for the environment, and you're going to make this a park. But in reality, you're just making a fake environment that's got to be upkept by the government and tax money. You've got to have rangers now, and you've got to have planters, people to go out and plant, and people go to water. You got to build all this structure, and you're designing this park, and it's just going to fade away and be gone in 100 years. One system will come and another system will go, but the kingdom of our Father is forever. And that fire will come and burn it up, and the pine trees will regrow. You come back in 20 years, and it'll all be regrowth, beautiful. And the right things that need to be grown there will be grown. And the environment will take care of itself, because somehow our Father made the world to take care of itself. The subconscious mind is just doing all this stuff behind the scenes. So you see, it's important to know or have the right mind. We don't have the mind of the flesh, we have the mind of the Spirit. And the mind of the Spirit is love and joy and mildness and goodness. And what does that mean? It means that we think upon these things and everything runs smoothly. We have faith and everything runs smooth. We trust in our Father in heaven, and we live according to the Holy Spirit, the inner natural inclination that He gives us. But if we try to become like the divine being and build castles and Babylon, and try to do all this ourselves and learn all this stuff, that can be considered mind, right? The mind of the flesh, which is pride. I got to do it myself. Get there by works. Control everything. Fear, hate. If you go through that channel, everything's going to be messed up. So the number one thing out of these four is the mind. And this is the first law of the matrix that you've got to overcome. You've got to be able to see what is the proper way to think. You've got to understand that all the learning in the world, you might get a brownie button, you might get a badge and a big trophy and your name on the wall because it says you're the staff director or the president of the school, or you might be the president of your country or the king of the world. It means nothing, right? There were kings in the biblical days that are gone and dead, and we don't know who they are, and it doesn't matter to us anymore. It means nothing. All the physical knowledge, and information is not important. So, and if you're really trying to find that peace and security and the truth, and you're trying to find reality, you've got to realize that your mind's got to be focused on what is important, on the spiritual things, not these physical things. Number two is the heart. Where is your heart? We just talked about all these things are this fake environment. Is that where your heart is? Where is your heart? Well, in our world today, there is this world, and say our mother lives in Chicago and we live in Los Angeles. Well, we've got to go see our mother, right? That's what, 1,500 miles, 2,000 miles? You can't walk there, right? You can't walk there. That's too far. You got to have a car. You know, in the New Testament, it tells us that we have to be in this world, but we are no part of it. See, it says there, where your heart is, there is your treasure also. Jesus talked about this. He talked about the heart. It's a very important part of this matrix, of this Babylon that we live in. It's flashy, right? It's seductive. Remember when Eve saw that tree and she said, well, it's pleasant to the touch and it's pleasant to look upon. It looks good. It feels good, right? It's kind of drawn me to it. I'm going to try it. Our heart becomes deceived. You've got to understand that there are things that your heart loves, and then there are things that your heart is deceived about. Let's look at it with an illustration. You may love your car. I know a lot of people love their cars. They might even name that car. Let's say that they name their car Betty. Oh, this is Betty. She's a beautiful car. And you drive her everywhere, and it's just, you just love her. Well, now, there's a problem with this. This isn't natural, because this car cannot thank you. She can't appreciate you. She can't really even hear you. You cannot communicate with the car. It's an unnatural arrangement. It's like a blow-up doll. You don't have really any communication. There can't be any love there. You can love a real person, but you can't love a doll. Not the same way. If you love a doll, a blow-up doll, and you have a sort of a relationship with a doll, everybody would probably laugh at you, because obviously there's something, maybe something insecure. You have, you can't find a woman, right? You're having troubles in relationships. So you just give up on real relationships and you have a pretend one. Well, that's kind of what we're doing in this world. We've got this car and we're naming her Betty, and she's our best friend and we love her, but it's just fake, friends, because she doesn't hear you, doesn't appreciate you. Now, why am I talking about cars and having a relationship with a car? Because, you see, this is something that we need. We've got to get to Chicago to visit our mother. It's 2,000 miles. We can't walk. So how do we travel in this world? Well, our Father in heaven in the real world provided for that. Look at a horse. Now, the horse has a kind of a sway back so you can sit on it. You can hold the mane, and it works perfectly. But in the real world, the horse only goes 20 or 30 miles. And then you got to rest that horse. You got to talk to it. You got to be kind, and you love the horse. And that horse really is named Betty. And you say something to the horse, and she acknowledges you, and she appreciates it when you give her food. And you have a relationship with that horse, a type of a relationship. You see, and nowadays people don't have any kind of a relationship at all with the natural world. We wear shoes. We hardly ever go out into nature. We don't feel the grass between our toes anymore. That electrocommunication between the earth, the environment, right? We seldom sit on a stump and look at an ocean or a lake or a mountaintop. We don't have that breeze through our hair very often. The salty air, or the, on the beach, or we don't go swimming on the beach and feel the water bubbling around us, and the waves. And there's so many things that we're missing now because we got this car, this unnatural relationship. We spend all of our time in a car. And now, because of that car, grandma or our mother, she's gone 2,000 miles. Or we've traveled 2,000 miles, have a job in Los Angeles. So we don't get to see our mother. If we didn't have cars, we would never have gone that far. We would only be 20 or 30 miles from our mother. And our environment, our relationships would be better. And that horse wouldn't be polluting the environment the way that the car is. You got to make roads and tires, suck the oil out of the earth. They got fracking now, and that's making earthquakes. Everything that man does, it sounds great, but it ends up in disaster. So it would have been far better had we just rode the horse. And not only that, but there's all these other little things that make this reality so important, because it was designed that way. Once we begin to do it our way, through the ego, the flashy cars and everything, we're living a fake world. We're having a fake relationship with a blow-up doll. It's not really the same thing, is it? But you see, we get so wrapped up in it, we're becoming crazy. Have you ever saw somebody that's been on the street too long and they're talking to themselves? They don't know that they're crazy. They think everything's wonderful. That's the way we are, friends. Talk to somebody that you meet on the street, just anyone. Just have a conversation with somebody, and they'll just look frazzled, like they're in a hurry. They're trying to get to work. They have all this stress and their bills and everything. And you ask them, "Do you like your job? Do you like your life?" And invariably they'll say, "Oh, I love it. I love it." They're thinking about all these things they're going to get in the future. If they work hard, they're going to have this brand new television. They're going to get a better apartment, a better car, and they love their car. They love their blow-up doll. But they don't realize they've never had a real relationship with a real person. A lot of these people running around, having this relationship with this fake world, Babylon. They're in this matrix, and they're just running from between the mazes and going around in circles, and they're just frazzled out of their mind. But they're sitting there telling you right straight, looking you in the eye, telling you, "Oh, I'm wonderful. This is wonderful. I love it." It's because they're crazy. That's how bad it is, friends. We're absolutely lunatics. We're nuts. We've been fried. Our brains are fried. We don't understand that we're not living in the real world. So this is a lot different than when you read it in the Bible, and Jesus makes these statements like, "Well, the kingdom of our Father is like this, and your kingdom is beneath, and you're of the devil." And we think, "Oh, well, that's all spiritual talk. We don't really even know what he's talking about." Well, let me put it into a translation for you. Modern day English translation. You're crazy. You're out of your mind. You're serving the wrong master. You're running around focusing your attention, and your heart is desiring everything that's killing it. You're eating poison. You're having a relationship with a blow-up doll. You've never touched the sand on your feet for years, or felt the waves of the ocean going over your body as you're trying to swim in the high tide. You haven't seen the sunshine come up at 6 in the morning in 20 years while you drank your coffee on the porch. You didn't see your children play and frolic in the flowers and the daffodils. You missed the whole thing. They're all 20, 30 years old now with their own lives, and they're frazzled as well, but you missed it because you were working. Because where your heart is, there is where your treasure is. All right, so now we've talked about the mind and all the ignorant information that we're learning, and now we're talking about the heart and where it is and what we want and what we think and feel. And that's number 2, the second law of this matrix that we've got to overcome, that we've got to see. We've got to put our heart right. We've got to know where our heart belongs. Our heart belongs with our Father in heaven and in His kingdom. And this kingdom is passing away. This world is passing away. And so is its desire. And anyone who hangs on to this world will perish with it. Not because our Father doesn't love you, but because it's poison and it will kill you. And He's warning you of the dangers, and He's trying to help us to understand that we are His children and we can overcome this. But here's how you do it. You've got to recognize that it's false knowledge that you're looking at and that you're wanting. Okay, so that's the mind and that's the heart. And now I'm going to talk about the third thing, and that's the body. Now, the body is very important as well. And just like we talked about earlier, our Father in heaven made a beautiful world. He made the heavens and the earth. Genesis chapter 1. In the beginning, Elohim created the heavens and the earth. So our Father made everything, even the earth, even the physical things. He created it. Then along comes Jehovah, and He has another creation account, but it's not a creation account. See, that's kind of a misnomer, because it's not a creation account. It doesn't use the word creation. It uses the word yasser. He brings it into form, or He takes the outer form, and He manipulates it. He makes a garden, sort of a fake environment. Now, there's trees in there. There's animals, right? There's a lot of everything you need to live in there, but you've got to keep working this garden. You got to plant, and you got to do this and till the soil, right? And cultivate it, or else it's not going to grow. It's not going to do things right, and you got to, it's manipulative, right? One of the animals is talking to you and trying to deceive you. The whole thing's a deception. There's a tree in there that's got evil in it. Why would there be any kind of tree with evil? Like the New Testament says, any tree that our Father did not plant is going to be uprooted and thrown into the fire. Everything in this world that doesn't belong to our Father in heaven is just temporary, friends. You invent something, wonderful, but it's not permanent. It's just some strange anomaly. It's an illusion in the beautiful universe that our Father created. We are already divine beings, and with our spiritual minds, we create every day, and it's permanent. But in our carnal mind, with lust and fears and hates, we make ghosts and little, balloon puppets that pop and go away. Right? This is all an illusion. It's here today and gone tomorrow. We don't need to be afraid of it. We don't need to be in lust with it. It's just temporary. But here's this physical world that's not the spiritual world. It's not it's not the permanent world that our Father made and said it was good. All right, this is just the form that we've made it, the illusion that we've made it, the environment, the fake environment. And in this fake environment, there's so many things that you've got to be aware of. One is food. Right? In order to feed the physical body, you have to have real sustenance. Remember, Jesus says, I am the food of life. Whoever eats me will never die. But if you eat food that is not food, you're going to die. That's why in Genesis, our Father in heaven tells us we need to eat the fruit. Come, and He says, every plant that produces fruit or offspring is good to eat. And you eat the offspring, you eat the fruit, which in Hebrew is PR. So almost all of the fruits have come down to us from that root word. Even in English, it comes from that ancient Sanskrit or the Hebrew. And PRs come down to us as pear, prune, apricot. The word P in Phoenician has an F sound, PH. And so it's come down to us as fruit. That was what our Father in heaven gave us to eat, to nourish us and to give us life. And fruit has enzymes, life-giving enzymes. It breaks down the food so that we can be nourished by the food, so that when we can open up the little molecules in that fruit so that the energy that's in there can go into our body and give us energy and life. Because you see, the trees, we don't eat the root. The root pulls up the water and the minerals and things from the ground, the physical things. And the little leaves are like little satellites, and they're pulling in the sunshine. They're receiving signals, and they're transmuting the light from the sun through the leaves. Through photosynthesis, they're making fruit on that branch. So it's bringing up the minerals and the structure from the ground, right? Sucking it up through the roots. Through photosynthesis and the light coming and the energy coming, it forms that energy into a structure called fruit. And that fruit was designed in that way to be energy for your body. You don't eat the root. It's got too much cellulose. You can't digest it. You can't get the, nutrition. It might be some nutrition in there, but you can't get any of that out of it because it's just not digestible. And there are other things that are in the root, pitchy, sappy things that aren't good for your chemicals. Too stringent. The leaves have too much nitrogen. They were never designed to be eaten. If you give a baby spinach without processing that spinach like Gerber Foods does, they take all the nitrogen out. But if you give raw spinach to a baby, it can actually kill the baby because there's too much nitrogen. Fruit has the perfect balance of potassium to salt, 500 to 1. You have to have potassium in order to digest food and to live, because your stomach has HCl, it has pepsin, and it has all this potassium. And if you start putting a bunch of salt, it upsets the balance. You've got to have food that's got all this potassium, because the potassium guides all the other elements and minerals into the right places in your body. It's a perfect machine that our Father made, and we've got to live in the proper environment. This is the physical world our Father made. But if we take and we begin to make things, human make things, we take like in Genesis chapter 3, where it talks about how we became slaves, and how just Jehovah God, how he cursed us and made humans slaves to one another. Men became the slaves to the ground, and women became the slaves to their husbands or their owners. Jesus came to do away with that curse upon the earth. He freed and repurchased us and delivered us from the slavery. Men, you are no longer a slave to the ground. But unless you take advantage of that, it means nothing. And women, if you're going to, just give up your freedom and obey someone else and never learn that you are an individual and you're free, then you're never going to find freedom either. We've been freed from all of this. The kingdom of our Father is here. It's at hand. It's now. We are the light of the world, and if we don't shine, it's not going to be known. Even though it's here, nobody's going to see it. Nobody's going to see it, even though it's here. So, the physical world is real. The kingdom of our Father is real. We're in this world. We're living in an environment that's fake. But we're no part of this world. That's what it says in the New Testament. We're in the world, but we're no part of it. Get out of the world. Flee, oppose the devil, he'll flee from you. Turn to the living God, the Father of heaven and earth. Embrace the kingdom, it's near. Reach out, it's within you. You've got to know what it really is. You've got to understand the true mind, the true heart, and the true physical world that we live in. Okay, you can't eat bread because it's man-made. You take wheat. Wheat is natural, comes from the ground. And then you take the bran, you take the germ, you throw that away. You take the Seminole and you soak it in bleach and peroxide, extract all the minerals, all the nutrients, the vitamins, the phytochemicals, the natural oils, the flavor and the taste, and you've got nothing left. Like a fibrous little thing that you can manipulate and dry it out, and you call it flour. Flour sits in a paper bag on a table or on a shelf for years, and it's still good because flour is not food. It's you know what flour is? It's glue. That's how you make Elmer's glue, friends. It's a paste. It's not food. Food, if you put it on the table, will be spoiled. It will rot. It will perish. Anything that does not perish very quickly is not a food, because you see, food is life-giving, gives you life. Anything that's dead is not a food. That's why it says that by the sweat of your face you'll be a slave to the earth, and it's not going to produce the fruit to give life, because you don't want me. You've chosen the tree of knowledge of good and evil. You've chosen this fake environment, and you don't want my presence anymore. So this God that you chose, he's going to curse you, and he's put a curse upon the earth, and now he's saying that it's not going to produce the fruit because you've chosen the wrong thing. And so you're going to plow this field and cultivate it, work it, and toil and just be a slave, and then you're going to take this stuff that you make, break it down, process it, and bake it in the oven, and by the sweat of your face you'll eat bread until you die, because bread is lachem in Hebrew, and lachem means burnt or cooked food. Cham means burned, hot, cooked. So this is what's happening. We're eating things that are not natural, and our bodies are dying. We've got to become awake. We've got to understand that if we're going to physically live, we have to physically eat the right foods. We have to eat food itself. You go into a grocery market, there's the big lie. Part of this matrix that we live in, or matrix, because there, it's called a food market, and yet there isn't any food in there. What a great lie. How did he manage to deceive us? There's nothing in there but the first aisle is candy, poison. The second aisle is chips, poison. The third aisle is sodas, poison. The fourth aisle is canned foods that are not foods, but they're full of salt and chemicals. It's poison. You got the meat aisle, the flesh of sentient beings that cry out when you try to cut their necks. They're screaming for bloody murder. Please don't kill me. And in the wrath and the anger and in that fear, that moment that they're dying, all this carnage and insanity, and this is what we do. This is our life. The next aisle, just, pastas and sugars and flours and things to bake, treats, and, all this. The whole store is nothing but poison. There isn't any food in there except for one aisle on the other side of the store that's produce. And even the produce is just taken sort of a second. It's so unimportant that we don't even pick our produce in a local area, so we have to bring it in from Colombia or Bolivia or something, and Brazil or something, and so it's been on the truck for days, and they picked it when it was still green, and they put pesticides all over it to preserve it while it's going on its little vacation across the ocean to come to you, because we're not really worried a whole lot about real food. That's there, kind of slice a little bit of bananas, and set it on top of your cake, right, to make it look kind of nice. But when you get to the cake, you throw the bananas off and you eat the cake, right? You make some kind of man-made food and you sprinkle a little bit of lemon on it, right? It's just awful. So we've got to understand that this physical world is poison. We've got to see through that. We've got to make the right choices with our bodies and our physical environment that we live in. What kind of a home do you live in? Are you choosing the fancy, flashy, luxurious home that's keeping you further and more in bondage every day? Stress and the worry of keeping all this world going, and you're not having any life. It's robbing you of all of your life. So then there's the fourth thing. That's what this brings us to. And our possessions. Right? What do you own? What is important to you? And a lot of you'll say, well, I don't have a lot of fancy things. I don't have very many possessions, so I'm probably doing this correctly. Well, friends, you might be surprised to find out that we're not supposed to have any possessions. The early church had all things common. They shared everything. And if you have this mindset that we own things, that will destroy you. Even if your house is very small, if you own that house, it will destroy you. If you own your car, it will destroy you, because the stress of keeping that car, you don't want to get a scratch on it, or you don't want the roof to leak, or you got to mow the grass, and it's a constant upkeep because you don't own it, it owns you. We're free children of the living Father. We are designed to live in a world that's beautiful, that takes care of itself, and we don't have any worries. See, we're on autopilot. We're children of Father in heaven. The part of the world that upkeeps the world, that keeps worrying and thinking and building and planning, that's the subconscious universal mind that keeps everything going. It's not our job. If we try to take that job, and what we're doing is we're saying we own things. We can't own anything. Father in heaven owns everything. We don't own anything. See, when you start owning things, then that's where stealing, lying, murder, all these other things come into play. Imagine I lived in a world where we didn't own anything. And the only thing, like the New Testament tells us, that we had was food and shelter, and we were content with these things. And that's it. Now, it doesn't say fancy man-made gourmet meals. It says food. Real food, and we already talked about what that is. And shelter. What is shelter? Fancy houses, mansions, castles? No. Shelter simply means that when it's raining, we go out from the rain and we get under a blanket or a tent. Because you see, if you build a big house, then you can't go and see anything else because you've got to go back to the house. The house owns you. You're its slave. You got to work for the house. You got to fix the house. You can't leave. You're never going to enjoy your life. Because the only thing that's important to you is that house. The house owns you. But let's say that you don't own that house. And all your friends are going to go climb this mountain over here in Tibet. Well, you can go because you're not tied down. You can do anything. You can go and have fun. That's what you were made to do. That's why you were created, to live, to explore. Right? Not sitting in a classroom reading a book, but going out there and seeing it. Living it. Right? You're flying by the seat of your pants. You're on a zip line crossing the Grand Canyon. You're on a raft going down the Colorado River. You're seeing the whole world from Mount Everest. Pretty nice experience and a totally different perspective when you see life this way. And this is real life. But if you own this house and you've got to work 7 days a week to, pay the payments. And not only that, you need another mortgage to, fix the roof, and the paint's coming, peeling, and the neighbors are worried because got to mow the grass, or you got to hire maid servants, or this is an ongoing slavery because your job, your house, your car, everything owns you. So your possessions then are killing you. And when you can't pay and when you can't keep up with the Joneses, then thoughts of stealing come into your mind. Now I know many of you say, "Oh, I would never steal. I'm not going to go down to the bank and knock over a bank or anything." Okay, but I'm not talking about that. In some cases, that's why people do steal. They don't have anything and they think, "Well, this is not fair, so I'm going to go knock over a bank so I can have something too." That's the process. That's how people come to the point where they believe they should steal. But I'm talking about just everyday little things. Maybe at work, your your boss says you can work 39 hours. That's it. He doesn't have enough money to pay you the 40 hours. Right? And you've made an agreement with him. But in your mind, you don't think that's fair. So instead of working it out with him, which, you probably, he won't, he's not going to agree to this. So you don't think it's fair, right? There's too much stress. You're not, you put all these hard years in for this company and you think that's not fair. So maybe you start taking, office supplies home, or rolls of toilet paper, or you're going home and you're like, "Well, this isn't fair. I work so hard," and you're angry, fears building up. How am I going to pay the bills? Worry, stress. Now you're beginning to hate people, right? You hate yourself because you can't provide for your family the way you want. So then you begin to sort of cheat on your husband. I don't mean sexually, but maybe just cheating on his time and attention that you're supposed to be giving him. Or you're stealing emotionally from him. See, everything bad that ever happened comes from this idea that we have property. Under the law of Moses, women were actually property. And so they thought they could, beat them and force them to obey them. And see, they thought this would be a great idea because they wanted a woman. And so best way to have a woman for certain is to make a law that says a woman can never leave you. And they got to do everything you say. That sounds great, right? Only problem is you're never satisfied with that because the woman never loves you. She only does it because she doesn't want to get punished. If she could leave you, she would. See, and this is where adultery comes in. This is where lying comes in. This is why people steal. Because of the world that we live in. You live in our Father in Heaven's kingdom, and you don't have possessions, then why would you steal? The only thing you're caring about is apples and bananas and oranges and all the things that Father provides in plenty, the bounty, the multitudes, the hundredfold, the apples that just falling all over the ground. And you're going to hoard all the apples and not let the neighbor over there have any apples? It doesn't matter. They got apples on their property too. And you say, "Well, I own that property too. You can't live here." You can't do that, you see, because why would you want to do that? You only need a certain amount of land for yourself. You've got some trees to use, and you got plenty of apples. Somebody comes along, walks across your property, and eats your apple. That's your neighbor, right? You're just happy to see somebody and have communication and talk and fellowship. It's a wonderful world you live in. There's not going to be nobody's. He's not coming over. He's not a criminal. He's not trying to steal. He's got his own apples. So why would you dislike him? He's only coming over to your property not to get your apples. But he's coming over there to say, "Hi, these are really good apples. Have you tasted yours?" And you're like, "Yeah, and these are. They're great. Isn't this nice? We both have apples and we don't have to steal." Right? "Hey, you want to go do something this afternoon?" "Sure. Let's climb that mountain." "All right." "Hey, let's make the world a better place." "Oh, okay." But see, in our world, it's like, you know what? We're starving. We're hungry. Because we need spaghetti and meatballs and man-made foods, and it costs a lot of money. We got to go to the store. We don't have the money. We got to go get a job. So we're scared, we're afraid, and so hey, we connive with our neighbor and try to figure a way we can sort of steal the other neighbor's stuff, right? Because our family's hungry. See, none of that happens in the kingdom of our Father, where we share everything, where there's bounty. See, now we're not destroying the earth to suck all the oil out so that we can have cars and roads all over the world that really enslaves us. So the earth produces 100-fold. There's apples and bananas and oranges and beautiful, heartwarming scenes and fun and raft rides and laughter and hay rides and the horse rides, and everything is wonderful. And now you don't just call your car Betty, but you got a horse named Betty, and Betty's really appreciative when you ride her and you comb her and brush her, and you know, everybody's happy. And you've ever seen a dog play with humans? It's part of their natural, you know, way. They love playing. Animals love to be with humans. Dogs, they live to do the things that we want them to do. See, they're natural born sheep herders. So we say, hey, go over there and round up the sheep. Man, that dog just, boom. He's just rounding sheep up. You don't have to tell him twice. In fact, he's looking at you just waiting for your signal, because he'll do anything you ask willingly. You don't have to force him, right? You can lead a horse to the water, but you can't push him. You can't force him, but it's all through this harmony of love. You can't make a woman love you. You can't force her. You can, try under law to make her your wife, but she won't love you that way. So possessions then cause all the troubles that's in the world. Possessions create greed, envy, lust, and that creates hate and wickedness and troubles, and that causes all the problems like lying and stealing and murder. So possessions are really, really, really something we have to stay away from. If your heart is with your possessions, then your heart's in the wrong place, friends. If your mind is thinking only about possessions, and your mind is thinking about the wrong things, and you're not focused, you don't have that one single eye which is focused on the kingdom of our Father. See? And if your body is not living in harmony with your heart and your mind and the spiritual kingdom of our Father, then it's going to be poisoned, and it's going to be sick, and it's going to be dying. So basically, that's pretty much what I wanted to cover in this video. These 4 things that I think are very important. And the reason I'm calling it the laws of the matrix, is I'm trying to make this something that people can understand in modern times. We've all seen this movie about the Matrix. Well, that's what the Bible's talking about when it talks about Babylon. If you're living in Babylon, friends, you're living in a matrix. It's not the right world. And you say, well, why should I care? Why? Who cares? I like Babylon. But see, you only think you like Babylon. You only think you're learning all this information and all this wonderful knowledge. But you see, it's temporary. It's going to fade away. This knowledge is not important that you're learning. You need to learn about love and about this kingdom of our Father. And, maybe your heart is with your brand new Corvette, right? And your flashy cars and all the things, and your luxurious home and your jacuzzi and your motorcycles and boats. But is that where your heart ought to be? Is it really making you happy? Or are you just getting a lot of pleasure, and then after the pleasure is spent, you find yourself depressed and seeking and wondering, what is the world really about? And as far as the physical body, are you really aware of what's healthy and what's good for your body? Are you really aware that these foods are making you sick? Have you ever wondered why people die of cancer and heart disease and diabetes? You think that our Father in heaven made these things? It's just natural? And if it's not natural, then how do we overcome these things? We remember Jesus came and he healed everybody. He healed everybody. See, what does it mean? Have you found the key to health, to this body? And finally, the possessions. And that's what really is the base or the foundation for all of these evils. We're trying to own and possess this world and invent it and live in this fake environment, right, with the ego. We've got to overcome all of this, friends. It's very important that we learn to be able to see correctly and to reach out and experience the kingdom of our Father in heaven. All you got to do is change your mindset, start understanding and open your eyes and be filled with His Holy Spirit. So friends, I'm going to stop there. I really hope that this video was helpful to some of you and that you learned something from this, that you can take something away from this to improve your life. You might be able to understand this world just a little bit better, because we're living in this matrix. It's hard to understand. We've got to get out of this world. And not only that, but we've got to help our neighbor, friends. We've got to help each other, because we're being deceived by the deceiver. He's ruthless and he's roaring like a lion to deceive someone, right? He wants to devour you. We've got to oppose him. We've got to really, truly oppose him in our minds and our hearts. We've got to know who this enemy is and reject him and all his lies. And he's trying to teach us through all mediums, religion, science, government, politics. Everybody's sitting around the television tonight watching this debate, and it's just a theatrical spectacle, friends. We're not really voting for the next president. Do not be deceived, friends. So get the word out, friends, and let's preach the good news of His kingdom for all the world, so that the end of this old world can come soon, because it really is up to us. We're the light of the world. We've got to take this message out there, friends. This is David Vos, and I'm going to sign out. You guys have a great day.